Hey guys, welcome to All Things Music, the Wednesday edition, episode 65, I believe we're on. Man, this is flying. Well, today I've come to talk about another thing, and today's the 6th of July, and tomorrow will be the 13th anniversary of my first professional studio gig. That's what I'm going to talk to you about today. So, back in those days, I was on MySpace, and before that date, it had been kind of the same old with my band. I started Araya in 1991. Our first show, as I've said, was our first performance was on K Rock, the morning show, the annual morning show, where they had all the local celebrities come in and jam a bit, and then, they would be on live on the air. So if you made mistakes or whatever it was, you did it. And so that was my first gig. I just started playing drums in February that year. My mom bought me a Yamaha electric kit. I beat that up, blistered it, quickly got into wanting to play acoustic. At that time, Headbangers Ball was on. Heavy metal was still good, and kind of it was on its way to alternative and taking a back seat. But 80s metal was kind of a big thing for me, and it wasn't. If you looked, you could find some really vile stuff, but a lot of it was just hair metal, Love and whatever else was what all about, riding motorcycles and things like that I had done when I was younger with my uncle. Anyway, so I started writing in 91. So my first drum set, I began writing a little bit on that. I had real cymbals, but electric drum pads. And at that time, Metallica was a huge one for me. The first 4 albums were really good, and Hetfield was a good writer. He had a lot to say. And Creeping Death was about Exodus 12, which I always thought was cool. So there you go. Anyway, so I went and played on a friend's drum set. Me and my bass player at the time, Sam. And he our friend let me try out an acoustic drum set to see if I'd be able to do it with the way my body is, and I did. So that summer, I got my first acoustic drum set. Still had my Zildjian cymbals, and added a China because I saw that a lot of bands were using that, including Metallica. Added a China, was all excited. Alice in Chains I was playing then, so that was like you had to have a China. So started playing, and then by that December I was already ready to play on the radio, which was kind of cool. But I practiced 6 hours a day when I started out. Couldn't get enough of the drums. I love music. It's cool that God loves music, because I read a lot in the Bible where the Psalms, and even in the Old Testament, one of the things that God set up for the clergy and the priesthood was a music section, and people were in charge of the music. So I'm glad that God loves music, because heaven's really going to be cool with that. And I hope I get to play. Me and a pastor friend of mine who played guitar in the band, he played acoustic guitar, and we were doing like old time hymns. Played for 5 years after getting in Araya going. But anyway, so that was cool. We said we were going to be in the band in heaven, but so, I got my first gig, and then from there, it was like, I started writing my own songs. You know how it is when you're starting out. My lyrics were decent, but my songwriting and putting things together, because I couldn't really write music that well then. And, I kind of memorized what I wanted to do. And I knew the note values, so I'd kind of make a line for the snare and the bass, and I would kind of write it out. But anyway. And so for a long time, I would hum when the guitarist came around. I'd be like, this is what I'm looking for. If you could just apply that, it would be awesome. Wrote some songs, got some originals going. Friend of mine, Araya had a few different lineups early on, but we were playing all over the place, and we were playing some good 80s hard rock and heavy metal. and originals, of course. And the guitarist that I was jamming with then, Bob, came in and he played classical guitar on top of being able to play like the greats like Randy Rhoads and Joe Satriani. Um, Bob could play classical songs, so we started rocking up some classical songs, and we wrote some original instrumentals that were like really cool. You know, they were multi-layered and whatever, but heavy. Um, Kind of like a cross between Joe Satriani and Motorhead, maybe, or Iron Maiden. Um, so that was pretty cool. And then, so for years it was kind of like you recorded live the band playing, and then you went around, you handed out your cassette tape around, pass it around. You made your own flyers. We made our own T-shirts for the band. I carried my drumsticks everywhere I went. I was proud, it was awesome. I was playing music. My dad played music. His dad played music. His dad was an actor and played music. Uncles played music. Some toured, some didn't. Some played local, some played jazz, some played rock, some played blues. You know, my grandfather was a world-renowned traveling musician, recording musician, the Bob Matthews Trio back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. He died when my dad was 14, so I never got to meet him. But, music has kind of been my family line, and I'm the first to actually have gone to seminary, become a minister, which is cool, because, I still am able to combine my two passions. And just to give a shout out to my friend John, he goes by Jay Jackson Apologetics. If you haven't heard of these guys, check them out. APOLOGETIX. I think they're up to like 70 albums now. They've been around for like 30 years. If you took Weird Al and put him to biblical lyrics, that's what you would have. Jay played in a regular secular cover band before this and was just all over the place. Played all kinds of stuff. They do everything from Frank Sinatra to Motorhead. Really cool stuff. But I mean, they're really good. They're spot on with the music, and what he does with the lyrics and the vocals is incredible. But so if you're interested in like Christian parody at Weird Al type stuff, check them out. Anyway, I'm always squirrel, but so I've been playing these songs that I wrote, and they got better over time. My first three, which you can find on YouTube, still, For What It's Worth, Solace, and The Dream Is Dead. I was on MySpace, and one of the local guys saw that I was disabled and I was playing, and I was putting live tracks up as I was writing and recording in my in-house studio. Not a professional studio, I had a Fostex multi-tracker, and I would mix my stuff there. And then just put the tapes in a lockbox that was fireproof. Anyway. So I was putting live tracks up on MySpace, and the local studio owner just down the street from me, then it was Castle Studios, J.A. Castle Studios. Jeff Avalier played with the Allman Brothers, back in the day. And so he contacted me and said, listen, I see, you've been around a while, and you've been doing this, and I'm digging your sound, but how would you like to come in, and I will just throw you one studio gig, and you can come in and record however many tracks you want. What dates work for you, and we'll set something up. Got back to him and told him, the 7th would work, and so I shot for the 7th and of July in 2009. Went and met with the engineer. He's like, you got to pay the engineer, but because he's going to mix you and do all that and record you guys. But I'll give you free studio time, which is really expensive. It's like a couple $100, for one track. So met the guy, did all that, set it up, got home, started working, and I went through 3 female singers, and I had the one that I thought I was going to have for the studio. But she got called. She was a model on, as her day job. And she got called to do a gig for the Speed Network. And I'm like, oh, man, 2 weeks to the studio. But I'm like, you can't really pass that up. And I'd be an idiot to keep you from doing that. But so she went and did that, and then I found my now wife. I found her online. I threw an ad out and just said, "Look, now we're down." At that point, it was like a week and a half to the studio, and so she ended up contacting me, and I shot her the lyrics and a CD of the recordings as I had them, the live ones. She practiced those, showed up for one rehearsal, we jammed, and then she showed up. We had one more with. I had to find a guitarist too at that time to come in because I don't play six string. I had a bass and I wrote the bass lines, and I was gonna go in and do the male vocals, bass lines, and drums, and just layer them. Record them as separate tracks. But we got there, and Jay was just like, I'll bring my bass and I'll just do both parts. All right. So he played six string. Jay was in a band with me back in 2000 to 2004. The Garbles, we did really well. Um, a lot of punk type music, but anyway, won't go off on that, squirrel. But yeah, so I went in, and on the 7th we did a great recording, a 3-track. Um, I just called it For What It's Worth. It's those 3 songs. Came out really good. That February of 2010, um, I actually, the guy that I started playing, that started my whole thing back in '91 on the morning show, he had me on, consecutive years after that on the radio for different gigs as the morning house band and whatever else, a couple annual Christmas shows. But he actually was at a studio, which was literally like a block from my house, um, in Utica, and he was at a station called The Drive. So he called me up, and they did this whole thing of Valentine's, this, that, and the other, and they were giving away a wedding package, and then he had me come on, and he played that 3-track in completion on the air, and so he had pushed me over the years. He's done a lot to really help me out. But then from there, then I got to record again in 2016, 2017, the 9-track. But that first studio gig, you showed up, you went in, it was raining, and I had to go, probably about a mile to get there, maybe. And it was raining and cold that day. It's never cold and rainy in the summer, but whatever, in July, in upstate New York. So I got there, I'm cold, there's stairs, and I was waiting for Noli, my wife. Noli's her nickname. And then my stepdad, who we called Pappy, he was my drum tech for years. And so he would go to shows with me and help me set up and tear down and whatever I needed help with. And he worked for me full time. Well, he went to the studio and helped me set up, and we did all that. They showed me how Sean was our engineer. He mic'd the drums, introduced Heather Noli to the vocal booth. And then they had like a foam wall between me and Jay. So I could see Jay's head sticking up. And he would watch, and we would do, cues. But I would face him and Noli. Noli had a little window where she could see me. And it was like being back in like the 30s and 40s, the early days when the drummer was the band leader. So I was kind of giving everybody their cues. Came out really good. I wasn't sure, because there were some steps to get in, and Pappy had helped me get inside. And it was an old, remodeled, renovated church that was a studio. So we did a live recording, full like band recording, and then we just layered on after the fact. Like we would put in the bass tracks. It was guitar first and drums and Noli singing. Did all that as one take, and we were good. We actually pulled it off each song in 2 or less takes, and so we were only there maybe 3 hours total, and he played back what he had, what he captured. Jeff actually came out and held up the phone, and was on the phone with a label, which Sean told me later on that he doesn't do that with anybody. And so he really believed in my sound, and he called us in the office after we were done with Sean. Sean said, come back in a couple days, and I'll have the final masters done, and we'll be able to give you guys some CDs. Which I had Noli end up go doing. I had her listen to it. She kind of knew what to listen for, and she got the CDs and signed everything, and we were done. So she did the second session for me because it was just, playback, which they would have fixed stuff for me if I heard something I really didn't like. But I trusted her ear. She listened to music. Um, and Sean knew kind of what I was looking for. He mixed, rock bands and heavier bands. But Jeff called us in the office after we were done recording that morning. He's like, listen, you really have talent. You guys sound really good. They're good songs, which, I'm always funny about my own material. I'm not one of those guys that's good about going around and saying, yeah, I'm really good. I don't have an ego by any stretch, and often will play down my abilities. But I know they're decent songs. I like them. I wrote them. I listen to them still. And I played them for years. I just never had a chance to record before that. So we did all that. We mic'd, and he showed us, and we can turn it up in our ears, and full headsets, which I like way better than ear monitors, and even floor monitors to a point, because I can put in, the guitar or whatever I wanted more or less of. And went through all that, got to go in the booth and check it out, and this and that. So it all came out really good, but the whole thing took like less than 3 hours. Jeff shook our hand, wished us luck, gave us some leads to talk to labels, and it was the end of that. And we recorded. We got the final recordings. Me and Noli still have our original CDs from that day, and I'm proud of it. But that was a really good opportunity and experience. And then I did all this just to show you guys, like, if you get the opportunity, like a lot of bands will say, and I've talked to a lot of musicians over the years. I'm not disappearing. I'm just going to lean back for a minute. But they say that making it for them is actually having a studio album, even just one. And I've been blessed to have 3. I had the 3-track EP. I had a 2-track CD single, and then I had a 9-track full LP. And it's 3 professional albums since '91, and they haven't gone to number 1. They really haven't. They got a good, I guess you would call it, underground following. Like, people really, really, really like it, or they don't. And it's not because, and I'm told that the ones that don't, it's not because of the songs themselves. It's the style of music. It's just not their cup of tea. Don't ask me to describe it. Go look up for what it's worth. Solace, Solace, and The Dream Is Dead. You'll see that 3-track was the album cover looked like it was from space. So you'll know when you see that you got the right album. It's those 3 tracks that were on that 2009 recording. Let me know too if you go listen to it, because I've asked people which song do you think is the best, and everybody likes a different one, so it's really cool. But we did really good overseas. We did good in Germany, which is where my family's from, strangely. Norway, Canada, Washington State, Australia. It's like we do better over there. My friend Eric Clayton from the band Savior Machine, they're a theatrical, I don't know how you would describe it. It's like if you took Meatloaf, the band Meatloaf, and mixed it with like Beethoven or Mozart, and then put it to like I don't know, almost like Meatloaf's lyric or vocals, kind of something Pink Floyd, David Bowie-ish back in the day, David Bowie-ish. Just it's different. It's like a whole experience. It's symphonic rock, I guess they would call it, symphonic metal. Back in the day, it would have been called like goth rock or new wave. But he did better over there too, and was not well received here because his lyrics are blunt, bold, and biblically based, true to the Bible. So he didn't do real good here. They wouldn't carry him in any of the Christian music stores or bookstores. And so he ended up moving to Germany, where he did really well. And they recorded 2 concerts. The 95 one is probably one of my favorites, but the 2000 one was really good too. 2002, apologize. So he ended up moving there. But yeah, a lot of the kind of music, the underground, quote unquote, does better overseas than here. even the ones that are from here, like me and Eric. All that to say, just if you guys get the opportunity, definitely go to the studio. Um, Now you can see my other videos on making it. You determine for yourself if you think you made it or not. But if the studio is, and even if it's not, if you get a chance to go record one track, it's an experience like none other, and I love it. I could see why some musicians love just punching in every morning in the studio and jamming for bands and being like the in-house bass player. I was going to do that on drums, and then Jeff ended up selling the studio. But I was on the roster as the in-house drummer, so a band would come in that didn't have a drummer, and I would play for them. I've written for other people and recorded with other people and co-recorded and wrote an album with a friend of mine back in 95 to 97. And that was pretty cool. But, we did our own recording in-house, Makeshift studio at the time. But, anywho, so the studio is a great experience. You definitely have to try that sometime. And if you have, what did you guys think of it? Did you find it exciting and fun, or was it grueling and nerve-wracking? Because I've also heard musicians say both. They dread the studio. I loved it. I think it was a great experience. I would do it again. I would definitely do it again. So that's my experience. And, things kind of took off for me, and I did really well. And my brother passed away in 2000. He was kind of my best friend and my cohort in life. And, people always said he had the physical and I had the knowledge, the head knowledge. My brother was slow, but could walk. I can't walk, and I'm kind of somewhat intelligent. A little. But, so things really took a turn when he died. That just never really got over that. And it just kind of seems like the experiences have, been going, but it just seems like everything kind of slowed way down after that. And maybe it's because I'm getting older, who knows, but he was 28 and I was 29, and it was a tough one for me. But on that note, I didn't want to leave on a negative note. So on that note, I will let you guys go, and God bless you guys, and thanks for watching. If you haven't yet, subscribe. I got a lot of cool ideas coming up. The next video will be back on Saturday, and I'll do something on lyric writing. And, I won't give away what it's about, but I think you guys will dig that one. And it has something to do with this morning's reflection for today, for when I do the Bible verse and whatever. So if you want to check that out, you definitely can. I got a really cool new track coming this afternoon. I'm so excited about it. It was one of my favorites in the 80s, and by a band who has gone Christian. And he started out Christian, not in a Christian family, read the Bible for himself, abandoned it to make it in the music industry, and really got sick and messed up, thinking, and physically sick and whatever, because he abandoned, what he knew to be the right thing, just to make the money. And he came back, and he still has the same sound and everything, but now he writes Christian biblical lyrics. So there's that. But yeah, I'm excited. So check that out at 2 o'clock. After this video is done, you'll probably be close to 2 o'clock. But yeah, and that's in the bass playthroughs section. Hopefully, it'll let me put that there. So God bless you guys. I'm gonna go upload that now, and I'll see you later.